Hi everyone, how's it going? Happy almost lunchtime. I promise I won't keep you too long because I hear there's a food truck revolution happening downstairs and no one will want to miss that. So, first by show of hands, who has been in cryptocurrency, Bitcoin or whatever since 2013 or earlier? Ooh, nice. I see it's still a minority in the room, which is a good thing. It means growth, right? Now, who has actually bought something with cryptocurrency before? Nice. Who has received payment for a good or service in cryptocurrency before? Yeah, a couple. Now, who has ever accepted a majority of their income or all of it in cryptocurrency? Okay, we got one. And who has ever closed their bank account because they got tired of that? Just me? Okay. So, I'm going to start out what got me excited about cryptocurrency in general, right? So first, I work for Dash right now, and I'm going to come full circle around to that, right? So, first off, what got me excited about Bitcoin, right? To begin with, obviously, Bitcoin being a peer-to-peer electronic cash system, that for me had a lot of personal implications. The biggest one of which, it's not controlled by any centralized entity. And that, there's a lot of things we do that are controlled by centralized entities that are okay. But the problem is, what if your entire future, your entire ability to make a living, everything like that, depends on someone who can just flip the switch? So that was a big thing that really got me is, right now you have a central bank that controls everything. They can change the supply, they can reissue the currency, they can decide to completely remove some banknotes, like what happened in India, where a lot of people were just really left without much recourse, right? And so the other thing is, I like the trustless aspect of it, right? I like that you don't have to trust someone to fulfill their financial obligations or whatever. It's going to go through, right? You don't have to trust the other person to be a good person. And then the thing that really got me excited, because I used to be like a precious metals gold bug, that kind of guy. But what really got me into Bitcoin was the frictionlessness of it. How it was just so easy to send pay. Like, here, I'm going to send you some. Bam, you got it. Oh, how about someone halfway around the world? Oh, they got it. Just that really is what really excited me, because it has a lot of implications for how the world can be changed, right? Because you can use that. It's not just, oh, you have to be either in a suffering country or you have to have some kind of ideological reason for this. Now that's just, at that point, this is actually useful to the average person. So what did I do? I wanted to live all in Bitcoin. So I moved to New Hampshire in 2013. Great spot if you're into cryptocurrency. And then by late 2015, I was working for Cointelegraph, making my income all in Bitcoin. And by early 2016, I closed my bank account, and I was going to experiment with, let me be debanked. Let me see if this peer-to-peer digital cash system actually works. And of course, obviously it's a little bit challenging this early in the game, right? But it worked for a while. And then late 2016, I started coming up with, all of a sudden, several dollar transaction fees, and then confirmations were taking all day for certain services. And it was starting to really, I mean, for a lot of people who just send money to and from an exchange, or, halfway across the world, it's kind of more of a thing that you kind of complain about over coffee, but it doesn't affect your life. Well, I mean, it really affected my life. Like, I want to try to pay for lunch, and then I'm just trying to transfer so I can switch to my Bitcoin debit card or whatever, and then I'm just waiting for half an hour. I have to skip lunch because it doesn't go through. So obviously I wasn't going to backtrack, so I looked for another option. That's what got me into Dash, because I was thinking, well, if Bitcoin doesn't work, but I really believe in the technology and the approach, what do I do now? So I looked into Dash, and the things that really drew me to it in the beginning were, first off, peer-to-peer electronic cash system. There's so many different blockchain technologies out there. I mean, just go outside, talk to anyone. There's so many different approaches. But what drew me to Dash is that original vision, the thing that I needed in my life, which was uncensorable peer-to-peer digital cash. And there's something about having that hard focus that really drew me. Like, this is something I can trust in the long term, right? And then the other thing is, I liked and this is going to sound really weird for someone who's supposed to be talking positive about Dash, but I liked how unsexy it was, for lack of a better term. I liked how it's not, oh, we got this new feature here, oh, we got this big thing, it's going to be the best ever, there's, you know, all these kinds of things. I like how it was just, this is stable, works, this is going to be good long term. And that's sort of, you can kind of get behind that a little bit more because you buy into fundamentals rather than what's this next unproven thing that's going to hopefully change the world but could just be a lot of hot air, right? And no disrespect to all the projects out there that are doing such great work trying to accomplish things that have never even been dreamed of before. And my point of where I come into all this is I want to use it now. I want to try using it now, and something that's focused on being used now is exactly what worked for me, right? So the other thing is community, right? That's the one thing that people really underestimate about blockchain technology and most of the distributed currencies that operate under it is they're distributed networks, and networks being connections of users, of people. And a lot of people really underestimate how important a community is, how important the people are, this is a technology meant to serve humans, yet so many people forget the human element. And the good thing about Dash was a relentlessly positive community, just sometimes a little bit annoyingly and overly positive, but a very energetic and positive community. And I'm sure anyone who's been involved in the Bitcoin space lately knows there's a certain segment of that that's just all trolling and flame wars and just a lot of negativity, and that's not conducive to changing the world, which is what I'm all about. So digging into Dash a little bit deeper, I got to how did Dash improve on the original mission of Bitcoin? Because Bitcoin restarted, for me, is if some people might be able to gamble on that, but for someone like me who's trying to structure my life around using something like this, and this could be like, you know, make or break for me, I have to be able to trust it's going to be there for me in the end. It's going to work. It's not just going to work now, it's going to work in the long term. So first off, what got me was viability as cash, right? One of the things that you're going to need at some point is to be able to pay your bills, not just your long-term bills, but your everyday bills. You know, pay the driver who takes you from the hotel over to this conference, right? If that's going to be, you know, $10 minimum, okay. If you're going to pay $2 on a transaction fee for that, or it's going to take a long time, that's not going to work. And so what I liked is Dash has fast and cheap transactions. I think the fees are a couple pennies now. They're set to go down by 1 decimal point in, I guess, the coming weeks with the 12.2 update. So that's a good thing. Fees going down in crypto? Ooh. And the other thing is, because of Dash's instant send functionality, you can have a transaction confirmed in 1.3 seconds or 1.6. There's a few varying estimates, but basically, a friend of mine who is a CEO of Wall of Coins, he put it more beautifully than I could, saying Dash is the only payment system in the world that offers instant permanent settlement. And that's a big thing because you get a credit card, you swipe it, it goes through right away, but then in 24 hours or so it settles. It has to see if there's going to be a chargeback. You know, there's a lot that can go up. Bitcoin, under perfect circumstances, right, gets transmitted and gets confirmed in 10 minutes or so, right? But with Dash, transmitted and can be confirmed instantly. So the other thing is privacy. Now, everyone used to think Bitcoin's this anonymous money, oh, you can use it for all kinds of stuff. Turns out, those of us in the space now kind of understand that it's very traceable, right? Everything's on the public blockchain. Everything can be linked to another. There's plenty of blockchain analysis firms out there that have done great work in being able to trace down Bitcoin transactions. And so Dash has a built-in mixing method that renders transactions untraceable. And I mean, it's been improved upon over the last few years. Never once broken. In fact, there's like a 15 grand bounty or something to break it. So if you manage to break a private Dash transaction, you could fall into some cash. So the big thing that got me for Dash, right? The big thing that really kept me there was long-term sustainability. Dash is self-funding, right? Bitcoin 100% goes to the miners. In Dash, 10% goes to continuing funding, development, and other things that then the masternode stakeholders, right, and these get a little bit technical here, but they get to vote on what happens to that budget. Meaning, not only do you never have to worry about how you're going to pay your developers or anyone else, but if they do stuff you don't want them to do, you can fire them. Think about how many problems that can solve. If someone starts doing a bad job in your open source project, you can fire them. And so the biggest thing, I mean, we hear this whole like consensus thing, right? About what's up with, you know, how do you, what's the consensus for scaling, all that kind of stuff in Bitcoin. And you can't, a lot of people say it's really hard to find consensus at all, right? With Dash, you can actually put something to a vote for the network and it gets voted in, right? So because of all this, Dash has that momentum. They just can keep going and going and going. And the original promise of Bitcoin is still very well alive. And right now I live entirely off of Dash, no bank account. And it's growing by leaps and bounds all across the world. And because of exactly that kind of momentum, that it's really hard to effectively put the brakes on. And one site I help run right here is discoverdash.com. There's, 449 businesses listed right now take Dash around the world. I've only been running this for a couple months, and they were adding new ones all the time. And it's going to be right now in the eastern U.S. in New Hampshire, where I live, in town of Portsmouth, in just like a half-mile space, there's like 6 to 8 Dash accepting businesses right down that street. So I can go have lunch, I can get some ice cream in the afternoon, I can go to the juice bar, I can get all kinds of stuff. And this is only going to be expanding all across the world. And I'm going to go to questions now. I will be at the Dash booth. I'm giving away 1 Dash over this conference. So that's, I guess, $10 to about 30 people, right? But you got to take a selfie with me if you want it. And any questions?
Okay, and after I give this off, if you raise your hand, you're next in line.
Do you know what's being done to spread Dash, to get merchants to accept it?
Yes, there's as it turns out, a lot. Obviously, any decentralized service, it's all dependent on the individuals, right? And there's a lot of individuals running around doing things. A fellow at our booth right now works for Alt36, which is a payment processor that hopefully will reach wide release in January, targeted towards the legal cannabis industry because of all the banking problems that they've faced. And so pretty soon you should be able to use, I mean, you know, optimistically speaking, be able to use Dash at just about any dispensary, right? If this thing really takes off. And there's plenty of merchant adoption initiatives all over the place. One thing I like to say also, what about 400 people or so here? About a couple of weeks ago, there was a Dash-specific conference in Venezuela that had just as many people, and they signed up a bunch of merchants there as well. So keep an eye on that map because it's going to keep on expanding over time. There's a lot of different teams. There's teams in, I think, 6 or so different African countries going around. There's a team in Ukraine that's getting a bunch of restaurants in Kiev to start taking Dash. The movement is pretty big and pretty energetic right now. Was there a next one? There we go.
Please remember, I run less if you tell me beforehand so I can get to you while he's answering.
All right. What is the monthly budget approximately for the Dash Core on a monthly basis?
Yeah, so I don't know the exact figures for Dash Core, the development group, but as far as the Dash budget that's available to pay people like me, people like developers, it's about $2 million a month, $2 million US a month. What can't you do with that? I mean, I remember, and this is not, don't take this as like a negative advertising thing at all, just as a comparison. I remember reading on Reddit a few months ago, the Litecoin community was really excited to have their first full-time developer. Meanwhile, Dash has 50 full-time developers and about 20 or so part-time, and a few dozen people like me who aren't developers but are still paid by that big $2 million per month budget that's only going to grow as the price goes up.
You talked about reaching consensus quickly because you're voting. I'm over here.
Oh, there we go. Yes.
And I was wondering if so say you have two different proposals for how to do different things in the core. How does that work out? Like people have to choose between the two. You put up votes where it's multiple choice, or whichever one wins. And do you have like a threshold for your votes to say this has got enough support to make it go forward?
Yes. So structurally, right now, the reason the Dash Decentralized Autonomous Organization, or DAO, the reason the Dash DAO is so successful after all these years is because of its simplicity. What you can vote for, a proposal is a simple question, a simple like text area, yes, no, abstain, and has a funding in case it's like a project you want to get funded for. So in order to pass, it has to receive a 10% net vote of the masternodes. So if there's 4,500 or so masternodes, you have to get 450 yes and 0 no, or 550 yes and 100 no, or some combination like that. So to answer the specific question, right, we got two different proposals. Someone says, oh, I want to raise the block size to 1 megabyte. I mean, from 1 megabyte to 2 megabytes. And someone else says, I want to work on segregating transaction signatures, do like a SegWit type copy from Bitcoin. Then what would happen is they'd go to a vote and one would get passed and one wouldn't. If both got passed, then you'd have a Dash SegWit 2x situation, I'm sure.
How do I sign up my favorite merchant, and how do I find out, like, do you have a list of all of your participating merchants?
Yes, discoverdash.com. Which merchant is this?
I mean, just any of them, like somebody that I would commonly go to.
Yeah, so I'm sorry, you're asking how would you sign them up? Like how would you get them on that map?
Yeah, like how do I, like, do I send them to dash.com? Like how do I promote this to my favorite merchant?
Yeah, so obviously the best way of doing things is through a one-on-one interaction, personal interaction. Tell them about what you think is the best, why you use Dash, why they should use it, all that. After that, I mean, you really don't even need to direct them to those kind of things at all unless they have more specific questions into the greater community of resources. But basically, just get them set up with a wallet or get them set up with a payment processor. We're in the process of building out this site to where we will have like a really, for lack of a better word, idiot-proof guide for merchants, guide for whatever, just like how do you get set up on this depending on your specific things. So there will be more specific resources. In the meantime, you can just go Discover Dash, and when you get them set up, you can discoverdash.com/submit. You get the business set there. Or if you have any other questions, come to me.
Okay. I'm going to cut you off because we're keeping the trains on time. Keep in mind until 1:30, the food trucks are out there. Just pick a slot to eat if you just have to eat. Also remember, I am so sympathetic that might mean that you missed part of a presentation. Please understand that we're posting these presentations today. So anything you miss, you can catch up on today. Okay? And lastly, I should point out our favorite Dash guy here did not make a big deal, but Dash is very, very much an active sponsor of the Crypto Show, who are co-organizers of this conference. So a big hand to the Dash guys for playing a significant part in making this happen.
And let me point out that there is a budget proposal that went to the masternodes to fund this sponsorship. You can actually look it up.
Okay, so now he can't escape if you grab him. You've got only 8 minutes. I'm so sorry, this is a fast transition. 8 minutes until your next choice of presentations. Thank you.
Cool.